This graphic is going to be used to describe the steps in the request fulfillment process. Various request types such as hardware, software, accounts, and services will follow this particular process. So let's look at the individual steps that are involved. The process starts with a user selecting a service request. As I said, this could be a request for a new piece of hardware, new software, a service, or even a new employee hire, for instance. So they would select the service request and fill out the appropriate request in ServiceNow. There are requests for relocation and moves, requests for new employee hire and offboarding, requests for standard change request, and requests to add or delete. In many of these, it's related to both hardware and software, as well as even accounts. The service request will be received by the service desk as an incident. And so the service desk will be responsible for identifying very quickly that it is a service request, closing the incident, creating a new service request, and then categorizing that service request. So we see the different categories: request for move of hardware, software, or accounts, request for new hire or offboarding of an employee or hardware, software, request for change on hardware, software, or accounts, or request to add or delete. Here we will see a relationship with access management as well as server and storage, requiring approval for some of these requests. At this point, the approvers would be required to give approval, and that is going to depend on the service that is requested. The system will automatically notify the appropriate approvers, and then they will they will review the service request and then approve or reject. So if they do not approve, then we're back to square one. If they do approve the request, the service desk is responsible for prioritizing work that will be involved in implementing that service request in the queue, and in creating tasks in ServiceNow. Those tasks will be assigned to an individual, and so the service assignee would be responsible for applying the solution, testing the solution, and then verifying the solution with the customer. At which point it will be the responsibility of the assigned support group to determine if the service request was solved. If it was not solved, then we will either return to step 1.6, the apply step, and/or we will proceed to the incident management process if it's not something that can be resolved. However, if the service request was solved, then we would move on to step 1.8. In step 1.8, the service desk is responsible for changing the status to resolved once all the tasks are completed, and notifying the user of the resolution, followed by sending the user a standard customer satisfaction survey. Once the user fills out the survey, ServiceNow will report on those results, and the IT leadership team will be responsible for reviewing those survey reports and potentially setting any corrective actions which may be necessary. That may reopen or move the service request over to incident management. After the incident status has been closed for 5 days, then the system automation will be responsible for closing that service request. So there you have the individual steps that make up the request fulfillment process.